The Creel came to Aros Prime like a storm no one could stop. Their black ships filled the sky, moving in perfect lines. They did not ask for peace. They demanded surrender. Loud voices came from every ship, speaking in clear words the humans could understand. Give up your world. Kneel to the Creel. Resist and die. On the bridge of the biggest ship called Dominance, Commander Zirin watched the blue-green planet below. His body was tall and covered in hard black scales. His eyes, made of many small parts, glowed yellow in the dim red light. He felt no worry. The Creel had taken hundreds of worlds before this one. They were born for war. Fear was something other species had, not them. These humans are weak, Zirin said to Kale, his second in command. They have soft skin. They feel pain. They get scared. We will break them fast and take what we want. Kale clicked his sharp mouthparts. Yes, Commander. Their colony is small, only about 50,000 people. Easy prey. The attack started when the sun rose over the main human settlement. Long drop pods fell from the sky like black rain. Each pod hit the ground hard and opened. Out came Creel soldiers, tall, fast, armed with glowing plasma weapons and sharp blades. They moved together like one big machine. No one spoke. No one hesitated. They knew what to do. The humans did not run at first. In the streets of New Haven, the biggest town on Aros Prime, people looked up. Some grabbed rifles from their homes. Others ran to hidden shelters. But many stayed calm. They had trained for this day. Captain Daniel Hayes stood on a rooftop with his small team. He was a tall man with short brown hair and calm gray eyes. He spoke into his radio in a steady voice. All units, fall back to Zone 3. Do not fight head-on. Make them chase us. His soldiers nodded. They were farmers, teachers, mechanics, normal people who now carried guns. They moved quick and quiet through alleys and broken buildings. They did not shout or panic. They just did their job. The Creel marched forward. Their plasma shots burned holes in walls and cars. They expected screams. They expected people running in fear. But the streets stayed mostly empty. Only a few shots came back, sharp cracks from human rifles. One Creel soldier fell, then another. The rest kept moving. Zirin watched everything from his ship. Small screens showed the battle. He saw humans shoot and then disappear around corners. He saw them drop small bombs that exploded under Creel feet. He saw one human, a woman named Laura Bennett, throw a bottle of burning fuel at a group of soldiers. The fire spread fast. 3 Creel burned and screamed in high, strange voices. Laura ran, but not in panic. She ran like someone who knew where to go next. Why do they fight this way? Kale asked. His voice had a small shake in it. Zirin did not answer right away. He zoomed in on the screen. He saw a young man, Ethan Cole, hiding behind a wall. Ethan waited until a Creel walked close. Then he stood up and shot once, clean through the helmet. The Creel dropped. Ethan did not cheer. He just moved to a new spot. These are not soldiers like us, Zirin finally said. They should be afraid. They should run, but they do not. Down on the ground, Daniel Hayes met his second-in-command, Ryan Patel, inside an old warehouse. Ryan was shorter, with dark hair and quick hands. He carried a map and a radio. They took the east side already, Ryan said, but they are moving slow now. Every street cost them. Daniel looked at the map. Good. We bleed them little by little. Tonight we hit their supply pods. Tomorrow we take back the water plant. Outside, the sun climbed higher. Smoke rose from burning buildings. The Creel pushed deeper into the town. Their boots made loud sounds on the broken roads. They shot at anything that moved, but the humans were not there to be shot. They were somewhere else, waiting. In one street, a Creel squad stopped. Their leader raised a hand. Something felt wrong. The air was too quiet. Then a trap went off. Wires pulled tight across the road. Sharp metal bars fell from above. 2 Creel were crushed. The others fired wildly into the empty buildings. Nothing answered them. Back on the Dominance, Zirin felt a strange tightness in his chest. It was small, almost nothing. He pushed it away. The Creel did not feel fear. That was impossible. They had removed it from their bodies long ago. They were perfect hunters. Humans were prey. Yet as the day went on, more reports came in. Humans fought from rooftops. They used old mining tunnels to move under the Creel lines. They turned broken machines into bombs. One group of humans even sang while they reloaded their guns. The Creel did not understand the words, but the sound made their skin crawl. Zirin turned to Kale. Send the second wave. Crush them before night. Kale nodded, but his eyes looked different now. Not sure, not calm. On the ground, Daniel Hayes stood in the shadow of a tall grain tower. He looked at the sky full of black ships. He looked at the streets full of smoke and fire. He spoke quietly to himself. They think we will break. They think we will beg. They do not know us yet. He lifted his rifle and walked back into the fight. The first day was not over. The Creel had taken land. They had killed many, but they had not won. Not yet. And somewhere deep inside Zirin, a tiny cold feeling started to grow. He did not have a name for it. Not yet. The sun moved across the sky, and the battle on Aros Prime grew harder. The Creel had taken many streets in New Haven. Their black-armored soldiers stood on rooftops and in doorways. They thought the humans would give up soon, but the humans did not. Zirin stayed on the bridge of the Dominance. He watched the screens without blinking. Reports came in fast. One squad said they found a group of humans hiding in a school. The Creel rushed in with plasma guns ready. The humans waited until the Creel were close. Then they dropped heavy shelves full of books and metal chairs. 5 Creel were crushed. The rest fired back, but the humans had already slipped out a back door. Another report came from the market square. A Creel team chased a small group of runners. The runners led them into a narrow alley. At the end of the alley, a truck waited. It was loaded with old mining explosives. A man named Ryan Patel pressed a button from a safe distance. The truck exploded in a big ball of fire. The blast threw Creel soldiers against walls. Some did not get up again. Zirin felt his mandibles tighten. How do they know where we will go? He asked Kale. Kale looked at the floor. They watch us. They learn our moves. They plan ahead. Zirin did not like that answer. The Creel did not need to plan like that. They were stronger. They were faster. They were made for this. Yet the numbers on the screen kept changing. More Creel dead, more wounded, fewer humans running away. Night came. The sky turned dark, and the stars looked cold. Zirin ordered night attacks. We will break their will in the dark, he said. They fear the night. All soft creatures do. The Creel moved out under cover of darkness. Their eyes saw heat, so they could find warm bodies easily. They attacked the west side of the town. They expected to find sleeping humans. Instead, they found traps. Laura Bennett waited in a dark basement with 3 others. She had bandages on her arms from the fire earlier. Her face was dirty, but her eyes were sharp. When the first Creel kicked open the door, Laura threw a handful of small metal balls. The balls rolled across the floor. They clicked once, then exploded with bright flashes and loud bangs. The Creel screamed and fell back, blind for a moment. Laura and her team opened fire. 2 Creel dropped, the others ran. In another part of town, Ethan Cole climbed to the top of a water tower. He carried a long rifle with a night scope. He lay flat and waited. Below him, a Creel patrol moved down the street. Ethan breathed slow. He aimed. One shot. A Creel officer fell. The others looked up, confused. Ethan shot again. Another fell. The patrol broke apart and ran for cover. Ethan smiled a little, then moved to a new spot. Zirin watched all this on the screens. His heart beat faster than normal. He told himself it was anger. But deep inside, something else stirred. Something he did not know. The next morning, more bad news came. A Creel supply drop had landed in an open field. Humans attacked it before the Creel could reach it. They took food packs, medical kits, and even some plasma cells. Then they set fire to the rest. Black smoke rose high into the sky. Kale came to Zirin with a report. "Our warriors are talking, Commander. They say the humans do not fight like normal prey. They say the humans enjoy the fight." Zirin turned fast. "That is impossible. No one enjoys war." Kale lowered his head. "They say the humans laugh sometimes. They sing songs while they shoot. They call to each other with jokes. Our soldiers hear it. It makes them uneasy." Zirin stared at Kale. "Uneasy? Creel do not get uneasy. We removed that part of our minds long ago." He just stood there. That afternoon, Daniel Hayes gathered his people in an underground garage. The air smelled of oil and dust. About 40 fighters sat on crates and broken cars. Some had cuts, some had burns. None looked beaten. Daniel stood in front of them. "They think we are weak because we bleed," he said in a calm voice. "They think we will stop because we hurt. But we do not stop. We keep going. Every time they take a street, we make them pay more for the next one." Ryan Patel stepped forward. "Tonight we hit their forward base. Small teams, fast in, fast out. We take their weapons if we can. We leave traps if we cannot." Laura Bennett spoke up. Her voice was rough from smoke. "I want the north side. They burned my house. I want to burn something of theirs." Daniel nodded. "You get it. Ethan, you cover from high ground. Pick off anyone who follows." Ethan gave a small salute. "Got it, Captain." They talked for another hour. They made plans. They checked guns and knives. They shared water and food. No one cried, no one complained. They just worked. When they left the garage, the sun was low. Shadows stretched long across the broken streets. The Creel controlled most of the town now. But the humans still moved through it, like ghosts. Zirin stood alone on the bridge. The other Creel had left for their posts. He looked at the planet below. He thought about the day. He thought about the humans who did not run, who did not beg, who fought, even when they should have died. A strange feeling grew in his chest. It was cold. It was tight. It made his scales feel strange. He tried to push it away. He told himself it was nothing, just a small thing. But it did not go away. On the ground, Daniel Hayes walked through a quiet street. He carried his rifle low. He looked at the stars. He knew more Creel would come. He knew the fight was not over. He whispered to himself, "Come on, then. Let's see how long you last." Somewhere far above, Zirin heard no words. But he felt something shift. For the first time in his long life, a tiny seed of doubt took root. Now it was here. And it would not leave easily. The days turned into weeks on Aros Prime. The Creel controlled most of the surface now. Their flags flew over broken buildings. Their soldiers patrolled empty streets. But the cost kept rising. Every day, more Creel died. Every day, the humans found new ways to hurt them. Zirin stood on the bridge of the Dominance. His scales looked duller now. He had not slept well. The cold feeling in his chest grew bigger. He tried to ignore it. He told himself it was only anger. But the feeling stayed. He looked at the main screen. It showed the power plant on the edge of New Haven. The plant gave light and heat to the whole colony. If the Creel took it, the humans would lose power. They would be cold and blind in the dark. Then they would break. "Send the elite shock troops," Zirin ordered. "Take the plant tonight. No mistakes. Kale nodded, but his movements were slow. Yes, Commander. The elite troops were the best the Creel had. They wore thicker armor. They carried heavy weapons. They moved like shadows. They dropped from ships in fast gliders. They landed near the plant under cover of night. The plant looked quiet. Tall fences stood around it. Big metal towers rose high. Lights glowed in the windows. The Creel moved forward in perfect lines. They cut the fences with plasma blades. They slipped inside. Then, the first shot came. Ethan Cole lay on a hill half a mile away. His rifle rested on a steady rock. Through the mitescope, he saw the Creel clearly. He picked his target, an officer with extra stripes on his armor. Ethan squeezed the trigger. The shot was quiet. The officer fell without a sound. The Creel stopped. They looked around. More shots came from different spots. Hidden snipers fired. One Creel after another dropped. The elite troops spread out. They searched for the shooters. But the snipers moved. They shot and then ran to new places. Inside the plant, Olivia Grant waited. She was tall, with short black hair. She used to fix machines here before the war. Now she fixed traps. She had spent days rigging the building. Wires, explosives, heavy beams ready to fall. The Creel broke through the main door. They rushed in. Lights flashed on. Bright and sudden. The Creel blinked. Then the floor gave way under some of them. Simple pits covered with thin metal sheets. Sharp bars waited at the bottom. Screams filled the air. Olivia watched from a control room high above. She pressed a button. A section of the ceiling fell. Tons of concrete and steel crushed a whole squad. Dust rose like a cloud. The Creel kept coming. They climbed over the dead. They fired at shadows. But every step cost them more. A hallway exploded in fire when one Creel stepped on a hidden plate. Another group walked into a room filled with gas. When they fired, the gas caught. Flames roared. Olivia ran down a side hall. She carried a small pack of charges. She placed them on support beams. She set a timer. Then she ran. Outside, the Creel tried to surround the plant. But human teams struck from the sides. Ryan Patel led one group. They used captured Creel plasma guns. They shot from cover. They hit hard and fast. Then they disappeared into the night. Zirin watched the live feed. His hands gripped the edge of the console. The plant burned in places. Creel bodies lay everywhere. The elite troops pulled back. They left the plant. They failed. Zirin felt the cold in his chest turn to ice. How? He whispered. How do they do this? Kale stood beside him. They know the ground, Commander. They built it. They live in it. We are strangers here. Zirin turned away from the screen. Send the bombers. Level the holdouts. End this. The order went out. Ships moved into position. Big guns aimed down. The bombardment started at dawn. Explosions shook the ground. Streets became craters. Fire spread fast. The Creel watched from safe distance. They thought this would finish it. But the humans did not die easy. Daniel Hayes had moved his people underground days before. They used old sewer lines and mining tunnels. The bombs hit above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. But the tunnels held. Daniel sat with his team in a wide chamber. Maps covered the walls. Lanterns gave soft light. They think they hit us hard, he said. But we are still here. Laura Bennett cleaned a wound on her leg. They hit the surface, not us. Ethan Cole checked his rifle. We can come up behind them now. They will not expect it. Ryan Patel pointed to a map. There is a Creel supply depot here, lightly guarded. We take it tonight. Olivia Grant smiled. And I know where they keep their spare parts. We can use their own tech against them. Daniel looked at each of them. We do not need the surface yet. We need time. We need to make them afraid to step outside their camps. They nodded. No one looked tired. No one looked scared. They looked ready. That night, small teams came up from the tunnels. They moved quiet. They hit Creel patrols. They stole supplies. They left small bombs in empty tents. When the Creel woke, they found friends dead. They found fires in their own camps. Zirin received the reports. Attacks from below. Attacks from nowhere. His soldiers started to whisper. They talked about humans who would not stay dead. They talked about eyes in the dark. They started to check shadows twice. One young Creel soldier came to Kale. "I saw one," he said. "A human. She stood in the open. She looked right at me. She smiled. Then she was gone." Kale sent him away, but the words stayed. Zirin walked the halls of the Dominance alone. He stopped at a window. He looked down at the burning planet. He thought about the humans. They broke bones. They lost friends. Yet they kept fighting. He touched his chest. The cold feeling was stronger now. It made his breath short. It made his hands shake a little. He had no name for it, but he knew it was not anger. It was something older, something his people had forgotten. On the ground, Daniel Hayes stood in a tunnel entrance. He looked up at the smoke-filled sky. He heard distant explosions. He felt the ground shake. He spoke softly. "Keep coming. We are waiting." The turning point had come. The Creel thought they had won, but the humans were just starting to fight back in ways the Creel could not understand. And the doubt in Zirin grew. Weeks dragged on. The Creel still held the surface of Aros Prime. Their ships circled above like dark clouds. Their camps grew bigger, with high walls and bright lights. But inside those walls, the soldiers changed. They walked slower. They looked over their shoulders more. They spoke in low voices about the humans who came from nowhere and vanished again. Zirin felt the weight every day. The cold thing in his chest no longer hid. It pressed hard now. It made his breath catch. He stood on the bridge and stared at reports. Losses, always more losses. His once perfect army looked tired. Some refused small orders. They said the tunnels were cursed. They said the humans were not normal. Zirin decided it was time to end it himself. "We take the last stronghold," he told Kale. "The old mining complex under the mountains. That is where they hide. We go in strong. We finish this." Kale looked at him. "Commander, our troops are not eager." Zirin's voice grew sharp. "They will follow, or they will answer to me." The assault began at first light. Hundreds of Creel marched toward the mountain. They carried heavy guns and thick shields. Ships hovered low to give cover fire. Zirin led from the front. He wore his best armor. His plasma lance glowed bright in his hand. He wanted to see the humans break with his own eyes. The entrance to the mine was a wide tunnel cut into rock. Big metal doors stood half open. The Creel rushed forward. They expected traps. They found them. Wires snapped. Rocks fell from above. Explosions lit the dark. Dozens died in the first minutes. But the rest pushed on. Inside, the tunnels twisted like veins. Lights flickered weak. The air smelled of dust and oil. The Creel moved careful now. They checked every corner. They shot at shadows. Then they reached the main chamber, a huge open space with old machines and high ceilings. In the center stood the humans. Not many, maybe 50, but they stood tall. Daniel Hayes was in front. His clothes were torn. Blood marked his face, but his eyes stayed steady. Beside him were Ryan Patel, Laura Bennett, Ethan Cole, and Olivia Grant. They held rifles, knives, and pieces of Creel weapons they had taken. Zirin stepped forward. His soldiers formed lines behind him. "You are finished," he said in a loud voice. "Surrender now, or die." Daniel looked straight at him. We do not surrender to things that do not understand us. Zirin raised his lance. Then you die. The fight started fast. Creel charged. Humans fired. Bullets and plasma crossed the air. Creel fell. Humans fell too. But the humans did not break. They moved like they had practiced this moment 100 times. Laura Bennett threw a grenade. It landed among a group of Creel. The blast threw bodies back. She ran forward with a knife. She cut one soldier across the throat, before another shot her in the shoulder. She fell, but got up again. She kept fighting. Ethan Cole climbed a stack of crates. He picked off Creel officers one by one. His shots were calm and sure. When a Creel got close, he jumped down and fought hand to hand. He used his rifle like a club. Ryan Patel stayed near Daniel. He covered him. When a Creel rushed Daniel, Ryan stepped in. He took the plasma burn to his side. He grunted but kept shooting. Olivia Grant used the machines. She pulled levers. Old conveyor belts started. They carried Creel into walls or dropped them into pits. She laughed once when a whole squad fell. Daniel faced Zirin in the middle of the chaos. They circled each other. Zirin was taller, stronger. His scales shone. Daniel was smaller, hurt, but he did not look away. "You came here to teach us fear," Daniel said. "You thought we would run. You thought we would beg. But look around. Your soldiers hesitate. They look at death and flinch. That is fear." Zirin swung his lance. Daniel ducked. He fired his pistol. The shot hit Zirin's armor. It did not go through, but Zirin stepped back. "You bleed," Zirin said. "You die. You are weak." Daniel smiled a little. "We bleed. We hurt. We lose people we love. That is what makes us fight harder. Fear doesn't stop us. It makes us dangerous. It reminds us what we protect." Zirin attacked again. Fast. Hard. Daniel blocked with his rifle. The metal bent. Daniel dropped it. He pulled a knife. They closed in. Around them, the battle slowed. Creel saw their commander fight one human. They saw the human hold his ground. They saw others fight on even when hurt. The Creel lines wavered. Zirin pushed Daniel back against a wall. He raised his lance high. "Now you end." Daniel looked up. No panic in his eyes, only calm. "You still do not get it." Zirin froze. He looked into those gray eyes. Something hit him hard. Not a weapon, not pain. A feeling. Deep. Cold. Strong. His heart raced. His grip shook. For the first time, he felt small. Fear. Real fear. Not the fake thing he had seen in others. This was his own. It clawed inside him. It made his legs feel weak. It made his breath stop. He lowered the lance a little. Behind him, his soldiers saw it. They saw their commander hesitate. They felt the same cold things spread. Daniel stepped forward. "Go home," he said quietly, "before more of you learn what this feels like." Zirin stared. Then he turned. "Fall back," he said. His voice cracked. The Creel stared. No one moved at first. Then one turned. Then another. They ran. They left their dead. They left their weapons. They fled the chamber. Zirin walked last. He did not run, but he did not look back. The humans stood in the smoke and dust. They breathed hard. They hurt, but they stood. Daniel looked at his people. "We did it," he said. Laura leaned on Ryan. For now, Ethan wiped blood from his face. "They will remember this." Olivia nodded. They learned something today. Outside, the Creel retreated to their ships. They loaded fast. They left equipment behind. The ships lifted off one by one. The sky grew quiet. Zirin sat in his chair on the Dominance. He stared at nothing. The cold feeling stayed. It would not leave. He had come to teach fear. Instead, he took it home with him. The reckoning was over. The humans had won this round. Not with bigger guns, not with more ships, with something the Creel could not fight. They had shown what humans become when pushed too far. The Creel ships rose from Aros Prime like wounded birds. They left fast. Engines burned bright against the dark sky. Below them, the planet looked quiet for the first time in weeks. Smoke still drifted from ruined towns. Craters marked where bombs had fallen. But no more shots rang out. No more screams filled the air. On the bridge of the Dominance, Zirin sat in his chair. He stared at the main screen. The image showed the planet growing smaller. He did not speak. His soldiers moved around him in silence. They did not look at each other. They did not look at him. Everyone felt the same heavy thing inside. No one had a name for it yet, but it was there. Kale stood nearby. He cleared his throat. "Commander, we lost many, more than any battle before." Zirin did not turn. "I know." "We ran," Kale said quietly. "We have never run." Zirin closed his eyes for a moment. "We did what we had to." The armada jumped to faster-than-light travel. Stars stretched into lines. The ships left the system behind, but the memory of Aros Prime stayed with them. It stayed close. Back on the planet, the humans came out slowly. They climbed from tunnels. They stepped over broken walls. They looked at the empty sky. The Creel were gone. Daniel Hayes stood on a hill above New Haven. Wind moved his torn jacket. His arm hung in a sling. Blood still stained his shirt. He looked down at the town. Fires burned low now. People walked the streets. Some carried stretchers. Some helped the hurt. Some just stood and cried. Ryan Patel walked up beside him. His side was bandaged. He moved carefully. "We did it, Captain. They left." Daniel nodded. "For now." Laura Bennett joined them. Her shoulder was wrapped tight. She carried a rifle on her good arm. "They will come back someday. They always do." Ethan Cole came last. He still had his scope slung over his back. "But next time, they will think twice." Olivia Grant stood with them. She wiped dirt from her face. "They learned something. Something they cannot unlearn." Daniel looked at each of them. "We all did." They stood in silence for a while. The sun rose higher. Light fell on the broken world. It looked hurt, but it looked alive. Days turned to weeks. The humans started to rebuild. They cleared rubble. They fixed pipes. They planted seeds in new soil. They buried their dead with quiet words. They told stories around fires at night. Stories of the day the Creel came. Stories of the day the Creel left. Children listened wide-eyed. They asked questions. Did the monsters really run? Adults smiled tired smiles. Yes, they ran. On the Creel homeworld, things changed slow at first, then faster. Zirin returned as a hero at first. The leaders gave him honors. They said he had fought well, but the story spread. Soldiers talked. They talked in mess halls. They talked in dark corners. They talked about humans who did not break, humans who fought when they should have died, humans who looked death in the face and kept coming. They talked about the moment Zirin lowered his lance. They talked about the retreat. The word fear started to appear in their language, not as something to give others, as something they now knew. It was small at first, a whisper, then louder. Then it became a word they used often. Young Creel asked old ones, "What is fear?" The old ones looked away. They remembered when fear was removed from their kind. They remembered why. Now they wondered if that was a mistake. Zirin became quiet. He spent time alone. He stared at walls. He thought about gray eyes that did not look away. He thought about a human voice that said, "Go home." He felt the cold thing still inside him. It never left. One night he stood on a high balcony. Stars filled the sky. He spoke to the dark. "We thought we were the hunters. We were wrong." Kale found him there. "Commander?" Zirin turned. "We must change, or we will lose more than one world." Kale nodded slow. The others think the same. Years passed. The Creel did not go back to Aros Prime. Not soon. Not ever, some said. They turned their eyes to other stars. But they moved careful now. They asked questions before they attacked. They studied their enemies longer. They learned about something called humanity. They learned it was not weak. It was strong in ways they did not understand. On Aros Prime, life went on. Daniel Hayes became older. His hair turned gray. He still walked the streets. He still spoke to young ones. He told them the story. Not to scare them, to teach them. "We did not win because we were stronger," he said one evening by a fire. "We won because we cared. We cared about each other, about our home. That care made us dangerous. That care made the Creel afraid." Laura Bennett listened nearby. She smiled. She had scars now. But she stood tall. Ryan Patel worked on machines. He fixed things. He built new ones. Ethan Cole taught shooting to the young. He taught them to be calm, to be sure. Olivia Grant designed better defenses. She made sure the next time would be harder for any enemy. The colony grew. New people came. Ships arrived with supplies, with hope. Aros Prime became a name known far away. A place where humans stood against the dark. A place where fear changed sides. On quiet nights, when the wind blew soft through the fields, people sometimes looked up. They remembered the black ships. They remembered the day they ended. Far away, in Creel space, some ships still carried the memory. Old soldiers told young ones, "Never go to Aros Prime. The humans live there, and they know how to make you feel what we never felt before." They did not laugh. They nodded. And sometimes, in the deep of night, a Creel would wake from sleep, heart racing, breath short, scales cold. They would sit up and stare at nothing. They knew what it was now. Fear. The day the Creel learned what fear meant stayed with them forever. It stayed with the humans too. But for the humans, it was not a curse. It was a reminder. They were not just survivors. They were something more. They were the ones who taught the teachers, and the lesson would last a very long time.